The story of the prodigal son is one that gets told lots of times in lots of ways. It's also behind other stories. The idea of one being lost on their journey and finding their way back. Stories of fall and rise back up are common in our culture and throughout literature. It's a familiar story, a beautiful message, but there's a good chance the younger son, there's a good chance the one that took their share and left, there's a good chance this guy is full of it. I mean, we have to entertain that side of the story, don't we? In our story, the dad throws a big party. The dad welcomes him home. You can imagine the humor in biblical time imagery like we see it. The longer gowns they wear, the dad pulling up his dress and running to the son, in the field. This exuberant joy that leaves all rationale behind as we welcome in this son. All of this energy. But what we don't know is if the son changed. We really don't know if he changed. Yes, he was hungry. That's not a fact that leads us to a decision to change our life. Yes, we know that he fed pigs. It's not proof that he's grown any. Yes, he deduces that his dad's workers have it off better than he did, at least in his mind. What we don't know is if anything is different or if he's just full of it. How spoiled is this guy? Has he really gotten it rough? Have things been as bad as he thinks, or was he just very entitled? Has he really hit rock bottom? Has he really hit rock bottom? We just don't know. We don't know if this move to go home is an educated gamble. I mean, how much worse could it be? We don't know if his decision is made in hope of his father's grace. I mean, it had to have crossed his mind, right? It had to have crossed his mind. We don't know if the speech he gives when he gets home, the pleading to his father, is sincere or what he knows he should say. Let's be honest. As children, we all know the words to try to get out of trouble with a parent or a teacher. We know the rehearsed line that we're supposed to say. And boy, this one sounds really well rehearsed. We don't know what has changed. If anything, maybe this guy's just full of it. Maybe he's just full of it. Still, he's welcomed home. We don't know if his father sees through the BS. We don't know if his father swallows the whole story. We don't know if the father puts him to work after this or treats him special. But still, he is welcomed home, regardless. Think about it. Even when we are at our worst, even when we are manipulative, conniving, even when we are full of it, God's grace and love are offered freely. Cheap grace, some have called it. Cheap grace, given without being earned, given without a change in behavior. Sure, the son had a confession, but he could be full of it. Sure, the son says he's not worthy, but it could have been rehearsed. True grace is earned. You have to work for it. You have to earn it. Now, this sentiment may sound like it fits right in with our culture, and it may sound fair. But as we discussed last week, biblically sound and fair are not always the same thing. God's understanding of fair is different than ours. God's grace flows freely. It's like the sloppy farmer throwing seed everywhere because there's plenty. God's love is given to those who are broken as well as those who look lovable, like the wounded man on the side of the road. The parables that we have been exploring the past few weeks keep challenging us. They paint a picture of love and grace that's so different than our cultures. It paints a picture of God that is generous to a fault, that is compassionate beyond reason, faithful beyond logic. The parables have us moving deeper and deeper. They keep challenging us to dig further, looking at ourselves with honesty, calling us to explore our relationship with God without any fear. Without any fear. Even when we're manipulative, even when we're conniving, even when we're full of it, God's love and grace are ready for us. so we can explore our own hearts, our own decisions. We can face our own past, where we've been, without fear, which is good news. Because there's a chance, us good church folk, there's a good chance us upstanding citizens in the community, there's a good chance us people of God are full of it. Are full of it. We might not be, but we could be. Yes, we're friendly, but does that mean we're trustworthy? Yes, we're Christians, but does that mean we're emotionally safe for others to interact with? We've got evidence against that, don't we? We're the good guys trying to make a difference in the world, at least in our minds. What we don't know is how honest are we really with ourselves? How seriously have we taken our journey of faith? Could our faith survive hitting rock bottom? The big book of AA shares these words on the process of self-reflection, the demand of work needed for recovery and growth. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we're halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. This feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook on life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. These words on how it works from the big book of AA remind us that recovery and Lent have a lot of common ground. Recovery and Lent have a lot of common ground. They have a been there, done that, now what mentality. They start with a been there, not ashamed of it now. I've done that. I can live out of it and learn from it. Now what mentality. Been there, done that doesn't have to be a burden of shame. It can be the source of wisdom moving forward. Because God's grace and love meet us where we are, even when we wish we weren't there. God's grace and love meet us where we are, even when the world says they don't want to be where we are. God's grace and love meet us where we are and call us to affirm others where they are, so that this journey of Lent can be one of honest self-reflection. Honest emotional sharing. It can be one where we look at our past and find the wisdom from it, not just the sadness and brokenness. We can look back on our past and see beyond the entitlement we might have experienced to see a movement towards service in our future. Whether our past was one we wish to forget or one that wishes to forget us. Whether our past is one that was pampered and privileged or whether it was one we hardly remember. Our past can be a source of wisdom moving forward. We've been there and we've done that. The question is, will we live in grace and love moving forward, and are we willing to share it? Both Lent and the recovery journey call us to be people of grace, not forgetting the past, but finding wisdom in it. Do we come home to God because it's familiar, or out of a response of profound love? Do we come home to God on this journey because it's better than where we've been, or because we've truly claimed God's grace? Are we faithful or faking it? Are we selfish or selfless? Are we confused or committed? Are we full of love, or are we just full of it? Either way, God runs to us. Either way, God runs to us with welcome arms, reaches out and claims us despite where we have been. God loves us. God loves us and puts the future in our hands. God puts the future in our hands. We may be full of it, but we are also filled with love and grace. And God has put our future and each other's in our hands.